What's up guys, Kevin or the Sports Geek here, and in this video I'm going to go over the Sports Geek Pro model over at FantasyLabs for the NFL Conference Championship round, and I'm going to be taking a look at the wide receiver position. So at the top of the Sports Geek model here, you can see we've got three Atlanta players, three Atlanta receivers here. Sanu at 4,500, Gabriel at 4,900, and Julio Jones at 8,200 on DraftKings. I think all three of them make great plays. Green Bay hasn't been great against receivers. And this game's got a total at 60.5 currently, and Atlanta's favored by 5 points. So the highest implied team total of the season as far as I can remember. And I wouldn't be too surprised if this game went over the total. I'm expecting a lot of points, a lot of fantasy points to be scored. So I think all three of these guys make great plays. I don't really have a preference here. I think Sanu is too cheap at 4,500. I think Gabriel's too cheap at 4,900. And I do think Julio Jones should be closer to 9,500 or above, given the total in this game. Julio Jones is dealing with a toe injury, so make sure you watch that. I expect him to be full go, but maybe he is actually really hurting from that, and maybe he's just kind of a decoy out there. So that's something to watch leading up to the game, but I think he makes for a great play. And I'll try to fit him in as many lineups as I can. And I wouldn't be surprised if I had two of these top three rated receivers in a lot of my lineups this week. Next up, we got Geronimo Allison from Green Bay. If Jordy Nelson is out, he becomes a great play. It's something to watch. Jordy Nelson is doubtful, but I would watch that right up until kickoff or an hour and a half before when they announce the inactives. Because you never know, he might try to get into the game, he might be dressed, he might be able to play. So that's something to watch, but if he is inactive, Allison becomes a great play at just 3,800 with how many points are expected to be scored in this game. Very underpriced. Same goes with Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb. I think they're all underpriced for how good Rodgers has been and how they're expected to be trailing maybe in this game. I expect a lot of the pass catchers in Green Bay to have big games. So I think Allison at 3,800 is a great play. He's ranking 4th in the model. He's someone that will allow you to spend up in other positions. So I think he makes a great play for both GPPs and even cash games. I'd probably consider him just for the savings he gives you. Next up is Julian Edelman, 7,300. I think he makes a pretty good GPP and cash game. Cash game, I think he's a little overpriced compared to the other receivers at 7,300. If you look at the other guys, Cobb at 5,900, but Edelman is very, very safe. You can see his floor here over the last, I don't know, maybe 11 games or so. He hasn't scored less than 13.5 DraftKings points. So he's put up a ton of DraftKings points over his last 10 or so games, 25.9, 34.7 in his last 2 games. Clearly the number one target there in New England with Gronk out. So I think he would be in play for both GPPs and cash. They've got a high team total as well. They're 6-point favorites with the total at 50.5. So I think Edelman would be kind of the clear option in New England for the pass game. But if you want to save some money, you could go with someone like Chris Hogan. If Malcolm Mitchell is going to play, 3,700 for him is a little cheap as well. So I think there's lots of different ways you can go there. But I think Edelman is fairly safe given his consistency. And then the last receiver I wanted to talk about that's ranking high in the Sports Geek model, Eli Rogers at 3,400. I think he's underpriced for a number 2 receiver in Pittsburgh. He hasn't done too much lately, although he did get 7 targets last week. He only had 27 yards on 5 catches for 7.7 DraftKings points. And then the game at home against Miami, they went up early, so I think I wouldn't really factor that into your decision making too much. He only got 1 target for 19 yards. 1 catch for 19 yards, 2.9 DraftKings points. But in this game, they're expected to probably be trailing in the second half. I don't personally think so. I'm a Steelers fan, but that's what the odds say, that they're 6-point underdogs. So they might be trailing. They might have to throw quite a bit. And when he does get targets, you can see here, 10 targets, he got 19 DraftKings points, 6 targets, 18 DraftKings points, 6 targets, 12 DraftKings points. So if he gets his targets, he's going to put up some points, and I think 3,400 is a little too cheap for him. So I think the theme here in the wide receiver position is that there's a lot of players underpriced, and for that reason, I think it would make a great play to put 4 wide receivers in your lineups, wide receiver in your flex position on DraftKings. Again, you don't have to. 3 running backs has seemed to work quite well this year, but for a 2-game slate with the running backs more properly priced in my opinion compared to the receivers. I think receiver in the flex position might be ideal this week. A lot of cheap players. I wouldn't be against stacking 2 and maybe even 3 players from one team with the quarterback that you have. I think going more for a full game stack might be the way to go for GPPs, but there's lots of different ways to do it. Hope this little model preview helped you out a little bit. And if you don't have an account on FantasyLabs, make sure you sign up, not only for the NFL tools for next year, but we've also got the NBA in there, NHL, golf, MLB, just a ton of great daily fantasy tools to help you throughout the spring and summer until football is back next year. So hopefully you guys had a great football season. Hopefully you finish it off with a bang this week, and good luck in your contests. Cheers.